And we are live.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. We're here. It's Irv and Dean and Irv Spin Doctors, Irv and Dean Spin Doctors, here on a Thursday night. We're replacing the program formerly known as the Rhyderlong on Thursday nights. Used to be on a radio station that used to exist once upon a time. Not sure if it still exists. Backwards Fast, Dinosaur. We've also, some of the big news this week is there's been more assassination attempts on political leaders in the country. First, they were trying to assassinate Councillor Irvine here at the Temora Dependent with the local lunatics around here. They've certainly tried to assassinate me multiple times, but then they followed it up with having a big crack at the big orange fella over there in the US.
They had a proper go. They didn't just stick with the papers and the reporting. They actually got a bit fair dinkum about it.
Yeah, they got a bit fair dinkum about it. Although they had to pull it, they weren't going to put snipers on those roofs apparently because there was a slope in the roof. It was a safety issue for some of the finest military personnel in the US, allegedly, to be on a roof that wasn't smooth and flat.
Right. Well, there you go. But first things first, we've got to do disclaimers.
We've got to do disclaimers, yes.
I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council, but the views I express here tonight are my views only and not the views of Temora Shire Council in any way, shape or form.
And I am not a councillor on Temora Shire Council, and I say exactly what I think, when I think, how I think, and I couldn't give two shits what the bedwetters and folks on Temora Shire Council who don't like my opinions, thoughts, or challenges of their activities. I don't really care what they have to say or what they think unless they're going to come on here and tell the truth, in which case they'd actually be more than welcome if they had the front. I'd sit down and have a debate with them.
Anyone who wants to come and take part on this platform, they're more than welcome. The only proviso is that they have to endure the questions.
Yes.
And
no
failing to answer a question means censorship.
Censorship,
yeah,
or
misconduct.
A code of conduct.
A code, yeah. So they'll be breaching the code of conduct if they fail to answer the questions when asked.
Yes, and we'll turf them straight out. No, look, ladies and gentlemen, we've designed this program. We've turned it into a little bit of a thing. The most recent video we did, I think it's now up to about 1,000 views across platforms.
That's good.
Which is pretty cool. So we're going to have a guest very, very shortly.
Just on that note,
yep.
On that note, I think some nights when we're on the radio show, there might have been 20 listeners.
I think potentially.
Yeah, some nights there would have only been 20 listeners. And of course, that wasn't good enough. So they vowed to silence us and kick us off the platform and shut us down. So the only option we had left was to go global.
It's out of control here. And look, and it's true now. And look, and I made a little video this morning on my Facebook page. Again, independent of Councillor Irvine, he and I are not necessarily hand in hand on everything. But I did point out that, the couple of real experienced circus clowns down at the radio station that did ban Councillor Irvine, who, based on my response to banning Councillor Irvine, banned me, have been ringing up sponsors saying that I'm contacting sponsors telling them to pull their money.
No.
Which is outrageous, because I made videos telling them if you want to keep your money there, go for it. I've got no issues whatsoever. Yes. But these sponsors are decent enough to ring me up and go,
I think
these crazy people are like ringing us, giving us a hard time about.
From what I know about you, what you say on your video is what you live in your daily life. You won't put a video out saying, don't pull your money, and then go and ring them and say, pull your money.
Yeah, no, I would. If I was going to tell them to pull their money from this little radio show, I would absolutely say, do it. Now, I have said in these videos that I could think of better ways to spend your money. Perhaps take your money, donate it to a charity. If you want to throw it in the bin, set fire to it. There's possibly some more benefits to that, but that's just the way it's all going down. But the fact that these lunatics are silly enough and control freaky enough to actually ring local businesses and tell them they must continue to sponsor us despite what Dean says is not only deluded, but it's outrageous.
But also, would you think that it's the right of a sponsor, if they don't agree with the censorship, to request that their money be withdrawn?
Absolutely.
It's their decision. It's their money.
It's their decision, but none of that decision has been driven by me beyond standing by your ability to tell the truth about our local council activity.
But it's certainly something that I haven't engaged in, because fundamentally I'm not looking back, I'm looking forward. I haven't given a moment's thought really of the radio show other than what you've just mentioned there. And I think it's pretty outrageous to think that anyone would be silly enough to be even considering.
And just the audacity that you're going to ring these people who generously donate their money to your little community radio station in the back of a museum, and you're going to ring them up and hurl abuse. You're a clown. I can't go beyond that. Anybody supporting the clown is bigger clowns. It's just where it's at. But here's what we've got tonight, guys. Anybody who's been watching the mainstream, the Facebook, the news, everything that's been going on, stuff Councillor Irvine and I have been talking about now for over 12 months that goes on in councils across Australia. There is a far bigger shit show happening in one of the councils in Sydney's west, a little town you may have heard of called Liverpool. And a good friend of ours, Michael here, Michael Angelkovic, is that right, mate? Did I get it right?
Angelkovic, yeah. Angelkovic.
There you go. We're out here in
It's
Temora.
a good Aussie name.
Not a lot of Angelkovics out here, but ladies and gentlemen watching, Michael Angelkovic he's been a community campaigner for many years. He's run in state and council elections in that electorate. And he's been kind enough to join us tonight. Michael and I have sort of had a little bit of backwards and forwards over, the last 12 months or so on Facebook and whatever. This is our first, I guess, face-to-face on this forum, but I thought if ever there was a time to get this gentleman onto our program, the day that Liverpool Council absolutely blew itself up and Minister Ron Honig actually looks like he's done something relative to his claims. So, Michael, what's going on there in Liverpool, mate?
Well, it's taken a couple of years, but things have really blown up. So we've had elections back in December 2021 when there were all the state elections. We had a new council elected. A voting block was formed. So we've got 10 councillors plus a mayor. The mayor had five of his colleagues, or 4 of his colleagues, plus another independent joined them in a voting block, and they've basically controlled the council for the last 2.5 years. 3 months ago, in April. So there's been, let me just take a step back. So this current mayor was also a mayor from in the previously from 2012 to 2016. During that term, he terminated one CEO and had another CEO also that was terminated as well. So that was 2 CEOs. There's been a number of acting CEOs that have gone. And once he got elected in December 2021, the first thing he did at the very first meeting in beginning of February 22, was terminate another CEO who just was 12 months into a 4-year contract, costing ratepayers $300,000-$400,000, something like that. He's then turned around, put on another CEO. Now, this is a Liberal Party mayor who's also the branch president of the local Liberal Party branch. Put on a CEO who happens to be a former member of the upper house, Liberal Party MLC, former president of the upper house, and 18 months into a 5-year contract, they've had a falling out and he wanted to terminate him. So in April, a mayoral minute was put up to try and terminate the CEO. That was knocked back. An investigation was launched. Then at the May meeting, another mayoral minute was put up. The vote was 5-5. This was in response to comments that were made between the CEO and the mayor, which were reported in the Sydney Morning Herald. And the mayor felt it was a safety issue. So he then put up another mayoral minute to terminate him. The investigation hadn't been completed, and it was a 5-5 vote because at this point in time, one of the councillors had resigned. They'd resigned in December because they'd been elected to the state government. And the mayor used his casting vote, even though he was the complainant against the CEO, to terminate the CEO.
So how much was that?
You would know, being on council, that what a rescission motion is. So a rescission motion was put up at the very end of the meeting, which should have been addressed prior to anything happening. However, 5 minutes after the meeting was shut, a termination notice had been sent to the CEO and a media release had been sent out saying the CEO had been terminated. 2 days after that, the CEO, the acting CEO, retracted the media notice because the rescission motion hadn't been dealt with. Then we came to the June meeting, and there's been a number of issues there. At the end of that May meeting, Ron Honig stepped in because he'd been watching council and all the issues that had been going on for months and months, and launched an investigation. And that all came to a head today, where the minister reviewed the report and, in his wisdom, said, in his opinion, said that council should be suspended, subject to a public inquiry, and that no election should take place in Liverpool Council as a result of a number of issues that have been discovered during this preliminary inquiry, and everything's on hold. So the council's been given 7 days to reply to this, the findings of the report, and it looks like there'll be an administrator appointed and no elections until the public inquiry is over, and that's the short version of where we're up to.
It is hard to see how in 7 days this council can cobble together an argument to convince the minister to allow them to proceed to the elections, isn't it?
It is, and quite honestly, with the information and allegations and that have been disclosed, I don't see it happening. I think that the minister has to basically proceed. It's got to go to administration, basically until this public inquiry is completed. So there's been a commissioner appointed. There will be, obviously, that will take some time. How long it takes, that's the question. It's always a case of how long is
the million-dollar question with all those.
Yep. In the past, based on my experience, looking at other inquiries, it will probably take at minimum 6 months, probably 9 months, possibly up to 12 months, depending on how much, the further they dig, how much they uncover from what they've already sort of exposed and how many submissions are made.
Michael, with this is they have conducted some pretty significant investigations to date. Whether or not that's
4 weeks worth, 4 or 5 weeks worth,
yeah. So enough. There must have been enough background evidence there to bring this quickly to a head, though. Surely the new investigation will reference all of that stuff. But I do agree with you. I imagine it's going to be a lengthy process, and it looks as though a significant council like Liverpool will be under administration for, you would imagine, a minimum of 12 months, an absolute minimum. You'd think that'd be record time if they could deal with this and be in a position to hold elections, because then it's going to be the whole process, and then you've got the fallout from it. And Liverpool is in a massive growth area with the Western Sydney Airport and huge amounts of housing development going on. It really does need a functioning council, doesn't it? It's a real disappointment that it's collapsed to this point, and an administrator gets appointed, because administrators haven't got the grassroots feel for the electorate, have they?
No, they don't. I mean, this is not the first time Liverpool has been in administration. It's the third time.
Really?
Yeah.
What was your experience of the previous periods of administration?
So the previous one that I can remember was 2004 to 2008.
Yes.
And that was as a result of some financial mess that was involved with land sales and things like that. It went for 4 years, the full term. The administrator was appointed, and it just meant that people really didn't have a say in what was happening. The administrator would, hold a meeting, basically go bang, bang, bang. It would be all over and done with, and the operations people were looking after things. Admittedly, the financial mess that had been created by the previous council was dealt with, and sorted out, and it sort of moved forward from there. In this instant, there's a whole bunch of issues with regards to staffing. I mean, one of the things that happened was at the beginning of 22, at the beginning of this term of council, the previous CEO, who had been terminated, there was a substantial restructure of the council, and that led to 5 of the 6 operations directors resigning as well as a number of senior managers. So they culled the talent and the experience of the council. And in any business, if you take out, a number of experienced people and replace them with people who are not as experienced and do not have the same knowledge that these people have, it takes the whole organisation backwards big time. And this is what's happened in Liverpool, in my opinion. Now, where we go forward, you said Liverpool is a big council. Yes, 300 odd square kilometres, but the growth area here, the fact that we've got the airport under construction and due to be completed in 2026, the fact that the previous state government neglected our area as far as infrastructure is concerned with regards to some roads leading up to from Liverpool CBD to the airport. So we're now missing some transit links. I've been trying to push for the extension of what is called the Southwest Rail Link. So you probably heard the fact that Gladys and Dominic Perrottet put in the metro from St Mary's across to the airport. Well, it doesn't help Liverpool because people still can't get to the airport by public transport from the Liverpool CBD directly. I was working with Mark Latham to try and extend the Southwest Rail Link, which only needed 2 stations plus the airport station to be extended, and we'd be there, and we could basically have a direct link from the airport into the city, into Sydney CBD, via the East Hills lines, which will go past the existing international and existing domestic terminal. We could do that trip in around an hour, as opposed to an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours on the metro, swapping lines to the heavy rail, and then going round from St Mary's to Parramatta into the CBD. It's crazy. But coming back to our
too much common sense, Michael.
Sorry?
Way too much common sense. Too much common sense.
Yeah, too much common sense. Why extend a rail line by 3 stations and 10 kilometres when you can go 30 or 40 kilometres and build 20 stations?
Maybe you just don't own land on that corridor where the where the one makes sense, and you need to direct it.
We should ask Gladys's old boyfriend whether he had any interests, or any of his mates had interests along that railway line.
We're in a bit of a stronghold for all the Gladys and Daryl Maguire stuff out here in Temora, mate. So there's an awful lot of crossover in the space. And talking about Mark Latham, MLC, he was actually a guest on this program when it was still a community radio show before we were unceremoniously dropped because this man keeps telling the truth. Mark and I get along well. At some stage, I'm hoping he might even come on here for a session. I'm sure if I ask him, he will. But I've always found Mark to be a fairly commonsensical sort of a fella, and I think he's a very passionate man regarding that area of Sydney and that Western Sydney area.
Well, he's a Liverpool boy, so he grew up in the valley. And look, I've been in Liverpool all my life, over 60 years, and I'm a conservative voter, but Liverpool is Western Sydney, southwestern Sydney, considered to be Labor safe Labor seats, and we had an issue where the fact that I told you a little bit about some of the community campaigns. 3 public car parks, a primary public high school, public primary school, and a public high school. To get the funding for that from a Liberal government in a Labor electorate was like pulling hen's teeth. Honestly, it took years and years and years to try to get that, and push the government into doing it, which we finally did. And this is part of the issue. I think that, you know, we've I think the last 12 months has been an improvement, or the last 18 months, I think, since the state election. We've had $50 million invested in upgrading one major road. That's, you know, like a drop in a bucket of the total amount we need, but at least it's getting things going after having 12 years of neglect by the state Liberal government. So this
I
is
think the one point that's really concerning here is this airport's been mooted for as long as I can remember. And you're telling me that it's under construction and due for completion in 2026, yet all of the enabling infrastructure around the airport appears to be lagging massively.
yes.
Well,
Yes, so, you know, 2026 is when the airport's supposed to open. The metro will hopefully get to it. That's, you know, they've been working on that. There are a couple of feeder roads into the airport that are already in place, but there's one main feeder road that should have express buses running along it, which was supposed to be finished by 2026. No way, because it hasn't even started. They're only doing the planning for it now, and the what do they call the
feasibility.
business case? Yeah, feasibility business cases.
Yeah.
Now, you know, getting back to that's one issue, but the other issue is we should have the metro around the other side, in my opinion, was just it shouldn't have happened. The better alternative was to extend the Southwest Rail Link from Leppington Station to the new Western Sydney Airport. It was a couple of new stations. We could have built a couple of new stations, put in another 2,000, you know, another couple of multi-level car parks that would provide for all the new development, because we've got huge growth. There's new town centres to be built. There's new suburbs being built. There's new suburbs that are currently under construction, and the roads are just in a woeful state. We've got, every time it rains, potholes appear like mushrooms. And, you know, we had $10 million given to the council that just disappeared in, you know, like that. But
have you, Michael, did you ever watch Paulie Fennick and the Fat Pizza Boys piss take on councils? Was that based on the Liverpool Council, do you reckon?
Oh, mate, it could be based on a few of the councils out here in the western and southwestern suburbs, I reckon.
Look, I'm sure it could be based on plenty of them all around the country. Don't worry, our little council here has its own melee of issues, if you will. But I remember when Paulie Fennick came out with that program and we were doing our program, it actually coincided almost to the minute that our radio program would finish, and then Paulie Fennick's, you know, piss take on local councils would come on. It was almost like we'd scripted it. But I don't know, Paulie. But you watch that that show, and it's sadly very close to reality, and it's supposed to be a comedy series.
And this is if you watch some of the videos, because I don't know if it happens at Temora, but here in Liverpool, for the last couple of years, they've been live streaming the council, and it's recorded, so you can actually watch it without, because during COVID you couldn't go in live, so they live streamed it and recorded it, so you could watch it afterwards, and some of the antics that would get up to, it's just amazing. But you know, the stuff that goes on in the confidential sessions, now, councillor, you would know that when it's closed doors, mate, the gloves come off. And the thing is, with the council rooms, the doors aren't that thick. And if you were able, I remember attending a couple of council meetings live where the audience, or the gallery was asked to leave for a confidential session. And mate, some of the language that you could hear from, you know, coming out from the doors was pretty interesting. So
I think there was some commentary there where the was it the ex-CEO actually told the mayor to shut the hell up?
F up. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
so
getting fairly
in
down.
the Herald, I can actually give you the quote because it was stated in the Herald.
And technically speaking,
that.
we're on YouTube, so we are allowed to say it as it is. You can use
So,
the word if you choose to.
This is from the Sydney Morning, quoting from the Sydney Morning Herald, so it's public domain, where the CEO allegedly said to the mayor and the deputy mayor and one other council employee, "Shut the F up. You're always interrupting me. Stop interrupting me. I'm not sacking anyone. I'm not going anywhere. You're not firing me, and I'm not going anywhere." So apparently, allegedly, this exchange caused the mayor and deputy mayor significant distress and anxiety as to become concerned for their safety, and that formed the basis of the complaint by the mayor against the CEO, and that then formed the basis for the termination. So the bromance between the two good mates who'd been in the Liberal Party for many, many years, who were both branch presidents, who were both buddy-buddy, all of a sudden the CEO stood up to the mayor because he didn't want to do stuff that he was being told to do, and see you later. But again,
on your bike.
This was the fourth time, and this is
yeah, like as soon as someone disagrees with it, they get the sack.
Yeah, mate, you have a little bit of a personality clash, and I'll just kick you out the door. So the CEO before that, he'd been, like I said, he was 12 months into a 4-year contract. I've been told that he'd just had a performance review. His KPIs were good. He'd actually been given a salary increase, and out of the one, like I said, six majority needed 6 out of 11, the 6-member voting block. Yep. 4 of those 6 councillors had not worked with this previous CEO as a CEO. 3 of the 6 councillors had never worked with the CEO ever in any capacity. So, tell me that how could you make an informed decision on the capability and capacity of the person? And I'd actually been, I'd had discussions with that CEO because I had run as a mayoral candidate, and he sat down and had a 1-hour interview, not an interview, but we had a sit-down discussion so that he could understand where each candidate was coming from, and he basically provided information on how he could assist and move forward if whoever was elected. I found him quite knowledgeable, and it's been very disappointing for me to know that CEO and a number of the directors who I'd also had experiences with, and they were more bureaucratic types, and they were apolitical. And we've gone from having apolitical people in council who were not mixing in the council business to having a whole group of ex-politicians from the Liberal Party and Liberal Party colleagues who were coming on. And this is one of the things that was mentioned in the report. I've only glossed over it, but one of the comments was that some of the people didn't appear to have the experience or the knowledge to be getting salaries of anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000.
The report mentions family members. It mentions, I think the mayor brought on his own legal advisor from another area of his life to be an advisor to council.
That's correct.
This is in the report. This has been reported. I'm not making it up, but it's as we haven't really had an opportunity to really digest much of it yet because it's such a massive report and the allegations are so huge. But it appears as though there's been jobs for the mates. A really toxic culture has developed to the point that the council's virtually dysfunctional. And
correct.
It appears the minister had no choice but to give them the ultimatum. Now, they've got a week to respond. However, it just seems very difficult to see how they could cobble something together that may allow them to avoid the suspension.
Well, yeah, the jobs for the boys was reported in an article in the Herald a couple of months ago as well. And you've got former MLCs, both John Ajaka and Shane Mallard were former Liberal Party members of the Legislative Council, the upper house of Parliament, New South Wales Parliament.
Yes.
You have a former councillor who's also a Liberal Party colleague who happens to be a real estate agent that was employed. You mentioned the Mayor's legal advisor, or that's been appointed as a policy advisor, and a number of other. I believe there are somewhere between 7 and 10 Liberal Party colleagues who have been employed in various senior positions. So that's been an issue. There are other issues about the treatment of staff. There was, issues raised regarding staff, the frontline staff, because I know that there were promises made by the Mayor at one stage he was going to employ 50 staff, and from what I've been told from my sources, about 15 people got employed. Jobs that needed to be getting done, like the grass getting cut and the maintenance being done on machinery and parks and open space being looked after, et cetera, weren't being done. And yet we've had in the budget, we've had a $15 million increase in salaries because the Mayor's got a number of, the previous Mayor had one personal assistant. He's got a number of personal assistants. He's built a communication and media team around him so that he can get on all the various media outlets. Well, he's had a free kick today. I tell you, he got on every media outlet.
He's going to need a football team when he explains all this. Bloody hell.
$1 million bucks,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and he's just
while we're on a pause there, Michael, just while we're on half a pause, to those of the people that are listening, watching on the various platforms, if you do have questions regarding this while we've got Michael on the platform, please put them in the chat. I'm happy to put them up on the screen. I'm happy to open the floor to anybody who wants to ask Michael, or you can ask Anthony out on a date or whatever the case may be. But don't be shy to use that. I know a lot of our traditional followers and supporters tend to catch up tomorrow, over the coming week. The views usually rise. But those of you who are watching live who want to know what in the blue hell's going on at Liverpool Council, Michael here is right sort of in the middle of it. He's been a community campaigner for a bloody long time up there in the Liverpool area, and now's a good time. If you want to ask anything direct, jump on there. It'll be far more honest than anything you'll get out of traditional media. So don't be shy to ask Michael any questions while you're going here. That's just a key thing to put out there for people.
There's a couple of points raised by this matter, because locally here we've got a merged council, Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, whose mayor just recently resigned because the minister would not defer their elections. They're in the process of demerger, and the Electoral Commission are going to charge them about $220,000 to hold elections, and the mayor has stood down because the minister won't defer their elections, and is pushing them to an election, and then maybe the demerger process will conclude, in a short period of time. And then they'll have to hold further elections in 2 councils if they get demerged. So the costs to the ratepayers and residents there don't quite seem justified if they do have to go to further elections, because there's been a very strong commitment from the communities that they want to demerge. And the previous Minister for Local Government from the Liberal, when the Liberals were in power, Wendy Tuckerman, had agreed to the demerger, yet Minister Honig has found some legal reasons why that can't progress, and it's sort of stalled to the point now where they've got to go through some extended processes. So there's a high level of frustration here, and one of the further points of frustration, I'm sure, will be the fact that Minister Honig's chosen to defer elections at Liverpool, but refused to defer elections at Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council. So it proves it can be done if he's of the mind.
Yeah, well, it can. And you mentioned the figure of $220,000 for a council election. I can tell you that one thing that was done in Liverpool, and this was done in March 2023, so a bit over a year ago, council in its infinite wisdom, once again, the block of 6, in a closed door, confidential session, voted to engage a private company to manage the council elections. And really, it's not been disclosed. It didn't get any publicity. I tried to get a little petition going and inform the voters of Liverpool as to what was going on, but couldn't get much traction on that. So in one sense, it's been good, because in the budget, I believe that there was an allowance of 1.5 million for the private company election, and the previous election through the New South Wales Electoral Commission was a cost of less than $1 million. So it's interesting how, just another little issue that we've got in Liverpool Council.
There must be that COVID inflation again.
COVID inflation, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, 50%.
My late grandfather came to Australia in 1949 to get away from communism. And from what he told me about the way that communists work and the communist regime works, reminds me a bit of the way things are in Liverpool at the moment. Dictatorships.
Well, it's funny you say that, because a lot of the governments at all levels in Australia at the moment are making moves to protect their frontline staff from uppity peasants or disgruntled members of the community. So the Attorney General, Mark Dreyfus, just recently beefed up the Commonwealth laws to protect Commonwealth frontline workers from abuse and attack from customers, which are obviously voters and the people. There's some stuff coming up down in Tassie at the moment where they're strengthening laws or bringing in new ways of thinking. I think the line that they're going to roll out is debate, not hate. So they're concerned about the amount of members of the public turning up at council meetings who are quite frustrated. They're also worried about the behaviour of some of the councillors who are quite frustrated. It seems as though all of the governments are starting to put these barriers between themselves and the people. Now, and it seemed more sensible to me to sort of review the decision-making process and perhaps do their job a bit better would be a good way of dealing with the complaints and the high level of frustration. But no, just put build a wall between us and the people. We'll have the police force standing guard along that wall, and we'll pay the police to protect us from the people that we're governing, much like the communist dictators that perhaps your father may have fled.
Like grandfather, yeah.
Yeah, so
and father.
Yes.
So
is that,
look, you bring up some interesting points, because one of the things that kicked off in our April council meeting was the mayor tried to go into confidential session, and some of the gallery refused to leave because they wanted to have the matter discussed in open rather than behind closed doors. Police had to be called. But what's happened is at every council meeting, this never used to happen, but we've now had to have security guards at every council meeting, and even to the point where the last 3 council meetings, they've aimed cameras at the gallery to record members of the gallery, the audience.
Well, they want to know who's dissenting in the crowd. I don't know if you remember through COVID, our mate Magda Zabansky wanted to put lists up of everybody. She wanted a list of everybody who opposed vaccine mandates, and she wanted a list of everybody who wasn't fully supportive of, I don't know, whatever the current hippie shit she was coming out with on any given day was. And they love their lists, and that's exactly the same thing. Spin the camera around. We want to know who's dissenting. We want to know who's dissenting. To be fair, last night I got some strange what do you call it, like a survey from one of the Griffith University, I think, wanting to know about our, they wanted people to give their honest opinion regarding how you feel about the government. So I'm half waiting for a SWAT team to come through my window at some stage. I didn't hold back on any of the answers I gave. I gave exactly as I thought. But the fact that these people who essentially live off our ratepayer dollars, taxpayer dollars, and whatever you know about me, I oppose all that shit. There's absolutely none of it I support. I'm a pretty hardcore libertarian that way. If you are going to be in these positions doing these things, I expect you to do it. You're my employer with integrity. I expect you to be very, very transparent. I expect you to be honest. And if you're not, I'm quite happy to see you rolled out and see you later. Take you, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say stone them to death, but good God, like they need to be accountable for the stuff they come out with.
And if you try and hold them accountable, I had my personal experience at Liverpool Council, which in the past, prior to this CEO that was actually terminated, Mr. Ajaka, I would gather information from various community groups, from Facebook. I belong to like over 30 community Facebook groups in Liverpool. There's like 35 or 40 that I belong to. And people would make posts. Now, when you get people making the posts about the same issue, potholes, uncut grass, parks being neglected, toilet blocks, etc., I'd gather all that information, send it in. Well, not long after he was appointed, 3 months after he was appointed, I'd never met the man, never spoken to the man, never had a phone call from the man. I turn around and get a letter saying, I'm writing to inform you that I've advised all my staff not to answer your emails. I've gone,
yeah. Do not contact us with your gripes.
That's it. I'm sick of your information. And then he turns around a couple of weeks later. I should add to that. Do not contact, do not email. I've instructed staff not to answer your emails. I will be the only one answering your emails. Then a couple of weeks later, I get a follow-up email saying, I will not be answering your emails because I feel that you are ridiculing and humiliating me because you're copying in the councillors on the emails that you send to me. And hang on, you're a guy who's been 8 years in the upper house. You were president of the Legislative Council, and I'm humiliating you by copying in a few councillors about issues of public interest and community concern. I just don't get it.
And the one thing with social media that probably, like, obviously people feel strongly about it, and you do get a certain type of person who'll go on those platforms and they're fairly outspoken, but it will give you at least it'll give you a good gauge of what is front of mind for these people. So why on earth would you reject that information and treat it as an annoyance? Wouldn't you surely at least monitor it and measure it in some way and try and figure out some way to address at least some of it?
Well, this is what I was thinking. People are complaining. We got potholes in these areas on these streets. I'm doing your job for you. I think what got up his nose.
I'm doing the public surveys.
Yeah. I know. An issue was made. A promise was made that certain an employee would be assigned to go around and do the streets and check the rubbish and do this, that, and the other. That was made in December. Well, in February or end of March, February, 4 months later, I followed up and asked a number of questions. Has someone been employed? Which streets have they reviewed? How much, what potholes have been fixed, etc. I got basically a 2-line reply saying, I'm not answering your email because I think your questions are I've just lost the word. Unreasonable. Your questions are unreasonable. You guys made the promises. You said that you would be employing someone to do this. 4 months later, I'm asking, has someone been employed and have they done it? And my question is unreasonable.
Yes.
It's
hard to understand, isn't it, for a sensible person? It really does hurt your head. But seems to be a part of the whole council experience, is to really bring some pain to people who have got some common sense and are sensible.
And they don't want to be, and we'll make the promises, but don't you hold us accountable. Don't you question the promises that we've made. We can tell you, we'll pork barrel all we want. The mayor of Liverpool made a whole bunch of promises in the next, the council, coming up to the council elections in 21. In the next 100 days, I'm going to do this. And guess what? Most of the promises were unfunded promises that he still hasn't got funding for. 1,000 days later, they're still, up in the air, and they've not been completed. So you can make all the promises you want, but you can't be held accountable for them, and don't ask questions about them.
I can hand out unicorns and fairies for an election promise, and it's never going to happen. But if people are silly enough to buy it, that's what people do. Is they are silly enough to buy these promises of handouts for, here's a unicorn
dust and fairy farts.
Yeah, it's nonsense. But speaking of pork barreling, Michael, there was one article I read regarding Liverpool City Council and pork. Something about pork on your fork. What in the bloody hell happened there? Because that's mental. Like, how did that become a news story and a national news story?
Get some pork on your fork was a phrase that was called out at a union. There was a rally prior to one of the council meetings in April, and it was typical Aussie larrikinism. There was a lull in the crowd, and someone in the crowd yelled out, "Get some pork on your fork." It was repeated, I think, once or twice, and then they moved on to other chants about save the CEO, Ned's got to go, save the CEO, etc., etc. The mayor of Liverpool is of the Islamic faith, and he got offended by that, calling it Islamophobic and calling it racial vilification. There was actually a speech made by the deputy leader of the Liberal Party in the upper house, Ms. Natalie Ward, saying that, this goes against religious vilification. Now, this is the point, and I have written to her, and I've actually saw her at a function. She wouldn't talk to me. She ran away when I started talking to her about it, and she's not replied to my emails. But the test for religious vilification is that it must be. There are a couple of tests. Inciting hatred.
Criteria,
yeah, serious humiliation and serious ridicule against someone regarding their faith. Now, put some pork on your fork has been a saying and a phrase that's been going since the late 80s, I believe, or late 90s.
Well, I
mean, it's there to promote the other white meat. And
yes.
It
was just a misunderstanding.
But this is how stupid it is. Pork barreling, the mayor's happy to pork barrel, but he's offended by pork. But
yes,
in my opinion, it was just done to try and divert and deflect attention away from the issues that were there, being the termination of the CEO and other issues within council. But I've actually had a meeting with the acting CEO. The acting CEO has advised me that they've instructed solicitors to look into taking this one of the union delegates to court for religious vilification based on the phrase of "put some pork on your fork." Now, how is that possible when you had the Opera House rally, right, with the Jewish flag and all the comments that were made there about the Jews, and that wasn't taken to court for religious vilification. And put some pork on your fork is religious vilification. It even got a speech, from the deputy leader of the Liberal Party. It's just,
it's embarrassing how quickly these people jump to crying and sooking and their feelings are hurt and all this bullshit. And it's a one-way street. They can do whatever they want, however they want, with impunity. And as soon as somebody pushes back, even making a comment like "put some pork on your fork," turns into a court case, obviously funded by ratepayers, because these people
Yep.
have unlimited other
Perpetu-
people's money. You know, it's
Yep.
bullshit. That does my head in.
I can give you another example of using ratepayers' money. You know, you come back, perpetual victimhood, constantly offended and perpetual victims. So the mayor happened to take another ratepayer to court for defamation. In November last year, I was at a community forum. I attended a community forum. They were community forums, but it was basically once again, the mayor was running it, and he was getting up and espousing all his things. It was a
His media
pre-election ratepayer funded campaign.
Yes.
But yeah, there was half a dozen of them. Anyway, the mayor made certain comments about me. I got offended. I then sought out legal advice. I went to 3 solicitors, and with one solicitor I was happy with. I got a barrister's opinion, and that opinion was that I had a case for defamation. So we lodged a concerns notice to the mayor in February. At the March, there was a bit of toing and froing with the legal papers. Now, my claim was I wanted an apology and the sum of $1,650 to cover my legal expenses that I paid to get the legal opinion and to have the concerns notice written. At the March meeting, a minute was put forward that the block of 6 voted on that gave the mayor a $50,000 fighting fund. And this is in the public domain. There's been an article written in the Sydney Morning Herald about it. So the mayor got a $50,000 fighting fund to defend himself from my claim of defamation.
Wow.
No mediation was entered into.
Bully,
He
Michael,
wouldn't go
how
into
dare you.
mediation, wouldn't talk, straight to getting 50 grand so that he could take me on in court.
Straight to pissing 50 grand ratepayers' money fair up the wall. What an inspirational little cow.
Part of the process, though. I think if as a involvement in something like that, I think obviously to stop it progressing, you've got an obligation to enter into mediation. I think all of that comes, like, if you were silly enough to pursue it, I think all of that comes out eventually. But as we all know, it's geared so hard against the applicant in those matters when you are trying to hold any form of government to account, because they have unlimited funds and unlimited resources, which obviously the average person just doesn't have access to. So quite often they will quite happy to, they actually almost dare you to take them to court so that they can get you in there and bash you up with legal costs and tie you up with all of the obligations of something like that. And it becomes very taxing for an individual to even go through the process. I've been involved in a number of matters at NCAT, and I've had to fund all those matters myself, and even just the time involved with preparing, like I've self-represented in those matters, but I've still had to commit significant resources of my own time, and I've had to have my own travel arrangements. I've had to foot the bill. I've had to have my own accommodation. I have to foot the bill. All of those things, and obviously this is all unpaid from my perspective, yet the council can basically get paid for every minute they spend on it, and then any of the expenses they incur are met by the council. And I find that's really unfair, particularly if they're doing it just as a purely delaying tactic.
Yes.
Twice I've had matters get to the start line and they change their mind right at the death, and they say, no, we'll give you what you've asked for.
Yeah.
But they push you all that way through all those hoops and make you roll over and play dead and jump and do somersaults and everything else and expend all of your time and all of your energy on that. And then they just go, oh, no, because they don't want to go to the hearing because they're afraid probably of how it might go for them in the hearing.
Well, and the reality is, if your challenge or anybody's challenge of this entity is legitimate, justified and reasonable, it will get thrown out. It'll get laughed at, and then they've got to justify how come they just got their asses kicked in a hearing of whatever term, whatever capacity boot, an NCAT hearing boot with your lawyers, whatever the case is. But they love it because it doesn't hurt them at all to get to that point.
Yes.
It hurts them if they get in there and lose. If they get in there and lose and look like the Kiama, I don't know if you're aware, Michael, of the debacle going on at Kiama City Council at the moment there. One of the councillors has just taken them to the Supreme Court over a code of conduct, which codes of conduct, as far as I'm concerned, are the biggest load of BS on planet Earth. They have no muscle whatsoever, a complete waste of time and resources. But she took them straight to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court laughed the Kiama Council out of the building, and it's cost them, upward of $500,000, I think we worked out.
They've reported a figure of $440,000 in legal costs that the council have to pay. I have been told by someone else, and this is unconfirmed, that those figures are grossly inflated, and Kiama Municipal Council appear in their press releases to be trying to seek blame at the councillor for taking them to the Supreme Court to clear her name. So how dare her take them to the Supreme Court and have that?
Don't you dare protect your reputation. Don't you do it. You're there to be a punching bag for whichever douchebags.
There's a couple of things. So number one, it comes back to the power of the money is there. So the process is the punishment for the small person to try and take them on if you want to make anyone accountable. And talking about the Supreme Court, that's one of the things that has happened in Liverpool Council that's created this whole other debacle, is the fact that when the CEO was terminated and he had his termination notice issued 5 minutes after the meeting had finished and the rescission motion hadn't ended, he lodged an application with the Supreme Court, and the council was ordered into mediation with the Supreme Court. So the CEO that's been terminated, who in his, I suppose, wisdom, became a member of the union, Liberal Party ex-MLC president of the upper house, became a union member, and he was protected with workers' rights. And
was it?
That's
sorry.
Wasn't the CMFEU, was it?
No, not the CF. It's the USU.
Yes.
But he'd
have been at odds with that union over a number of years with a number of.
That's right.
To preserve his balance sheet.
It's really interesting, So.
And then, when it suits him, he just says, "Oh, look, can I join, boys?
Save me, Daddy, love me harder." It's out of control, mate. Going on, Michael, with the with Liverpool Council. I reckon it's probably worth, if you're willing, of course, to come back in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll get a bit of an update off you. I'm sure you're going to have the finger on the pulse as far as this Liverpool Council implosion. I reckon you're all over it. Do you reckon you'd be willing to come back in and join us, a couple of weeks' time?
Absolutely. Look, 2-3 weeks. Let it sort of dust settle. Let's see where things happen. Let's read through the reports. I've applied to make a general interest submission to the inquiry. So obviously we need to know dates when this when the inquiry is going to commence, where it is, and all that sort of stuff. I have 2 years worth of emails. I've got printed emails this thick, a ream of paper.
I'm betting your office looks like his
office. Yeah, emails that I've sent, emails that I've received, emails that people have sent me. Mate, I've got a ton of information that I'm going to hand into this inquiry. And then you've got, former real estate agents and former councillors who are real estate agents who are working in council now. There's been some interesting developments there as well that we've found out recently. So
it sounds like a pretty solid piss take, mate. And as usual with all these councils, I think the piss take varies in degrees based on the size of the council and the amounts of money involved. But I think fundamentally Annie and Adam, we've got a few people who watch us regularly, Michael, who actually take a shot anytime one of us says the word fundamentally, apparently it's a thing we do on occasion.
That's their
That's their drinking game on Thursday night. But, overall, mate, I think all these things are, I think the council system's broken. I think it's been broken for a long time. It needs complete reform. Ron Honey came out in 2022 and gave us a little bit of hope. And then he sort of dropped the ball a few times. The fact that he's basically said, Liverpool Council, you're heading off to administration. Maybe there's some hope there to be had, which is nice. I hope that for our listeners' sake, if anybody is in the Sydney area, and again, these numbers keep creeping up each week. We're on our fourth week, so from scratch. This is if you're in the Liverpool area and if you're in a position to get behind Michael's campaign in any way, shape, or form, please do. The man needs help. I know what it's like to be a bit of a community advocate and in the political space, and you're a bit isolated, and it's certainly not an easy process. Where can people find you to offer you a bit of support and throw you a bit of love, mate?
Easiest way is follow me on Facebook. So you've got the link there, but my Facebook page is obviously the www.facebook.com/Michael.independent. That's the best place to. Michael and my personal profile, I don't do the politics. It's Michael.independent, and it'll be independent community campaign or independent campaigner. So that's where I do all my politics stuff.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'll obviously share your page. I'll tag into all of the stuff that I'm doing and have been doing with Aspirational Australia and a few of our other little projects. It's been really great to give us your time tonight. I thought when we saw Liverpool blow up this morning, I thought what a perfect opportune time to get you in as a guest and come and join Dean and Irv here at the Spin Doctors. And
I think we've cured a bit of spin already tonight. I reckon we've probably got the most accurate reporting probably on any network in Australia tonight. I think,
well, absolutely. I was really I've had the most media coverage that I've ever had ever in today, because I was invited onto a local community radio show, the first one, and that was going to go for half an hour. Sorry.
I said they'll ban you off community radio in no time. They love doing that. Just don't say the wrong thing or their feelings will be hurt. But mate, I think it's great that you're getting coverage. I think the more coverage, the better. I've been sort of watching you the last couple of years. Obviously, we have a bit of a Latham affiliation, which we've obviously got some similar values, and I think that's enough in this day and age to try and work together to make the country and the state and the local areas a better place. So I appreciate your work, mate.
My attitude is take the major party politics out of local government, out of local council. Let real community-minded, independent individuals run as councillors, and we will do a terrific job. Stop the councils being used as a kindergarten and a training ground for career politicians.
Absolutely.
Well said.
And let's get rid of all.
Indeed.
And let's just get rid of career politicians. They're a pain in the ass. Give them their 4 years and get out. Michael, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Dean.
The Spin Doctors. Obviously, join us and follow all of our Facebook. Follow Michael's Facebook. And again, we'll get him back for a couple of weeks. So if anybody's got questions for Michael regarding Liverpool Council implosion, send them in, because I'm not afraid to ask them. So thanks very much, Michael.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All the best. Good night.
Thanks, mate. See ya. What do you reckon, Councillor?
Well, that was fantastic. Wasn't that insightful?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I wish they could shock me at some stage with the amount of corruption and dodgy shit that goes on.
The thing that shocks me is they've actually done something.
That's a huge move.
Yeah, that's probably
a huge move.
That's probably the shock, isn't it? They've actually done something.
We've played Ron Honig's little spiel over and over. We played it down at the Pterodactyl FM. We've played it. We've hoped. We've prayed. We've
got links to it up on our pages.
Yeah.
Ron's really proud of it because he's still got it up on his Facebook page. He loves it.
Look, Ron, I don't know if you saw earlier in the week, poor old Ron Honig posted something about people leaving dog poo in a park that he was walking through.
Yeah.
And I'm not shy. I barreled him on his comments page and I went, Ron, I don't want to be a bastard. Well, I sort of do. But you got bigger fish to fry than worrying about whether or not, in your role, in your capacity, as the man,
Your whole portfolio is a bag of dog food.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
let's get
Councils,
the rubber gloves on.
that's
and
it.
Get into it.
I'm happy to
Dig
help.
in.
I'm happy to help. And I'll do it for nothing. I do all this stuff for free. I haven't got $1 from anybody in this space.
Dig into that canine
Yes.
goodness and get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Because it needs a
And it's far more of this shit where
it needs
you
a
go in,
serious,
roll them out,
a
anything
serious.
that's corrupt
big
and broken, smash it. Just
Yeah.
smash it. You know,
And I think it's the only way that the community can have any hope, because a lot of the issues that they're facing and a lot of this backlash and this fear from these disgruntled residents and ratepayers and people attending these meetings is because they are so frustrated. And there's no action, there's no accountability. We're only talking about the Robo-Debt Royal Commission the other day.
we were, yeah.
And not one public servant's lost their job. Not one person's been charged. Now, there's been virtually, they've had a Royal Commission with
It's a free reign. Off you
really
go.
serious findings,
Yeah.
extraordinarily serious findings. And people were so very heavily affected by this to the point where some people committed suicide.
It was disgusting. The whole thing about it was disgusting.
And there's been no
Not
consequence.
not one consequence for any action. Same as the Daryl Maguire stuff. We've spoken about that. You know, it's public record.
And I think he's facing one charge, which is due to be heard, I think, in September or October next year.
in 2058 or something, you know, like when it's all said and done and nobody cares anymore and it's too late to make any value out of it. And this stuff happens all the time.
But that's the frustration.
No heads ever roll. Everybody just gets their nest patted. Oh, my feelings are hurt. You can't hold that person accountable. You can't hold serious performance reviews where you say, you know,
Even Michael's comments that sending of the emails was unreasonable and CCing in councillors is unreasonable. Why don't you want the elected body to understand what the people are feeling?
absolutely.
How can that be a bad thing?
And how can these councillors not want to know?
Yes.
That's the other side of it, is these councillors should want to know absolutely everything that's going on in that space. I mean, obviously some people are a bit frivolous. We all know that. And there's going to be the odd bit of bullshit where you've got, you know, crazy Joe Gallo may be a citizen in your electorate and he may come down every 15 minutes and be an absolute pain in your backside, councillor.
Yes, but if there's 20 of them, that's when you've got to
on the same issue.
50 of them.
Yeah. And,
and that's where you can actually measure that. And that's what Michael does. Like, he takes these serious issues
absolutely
that are bubbling away on social media across a wide range of platforms, and he parcels them up and he delivers them neatly to council and says, this, in my opinion,
well, I've done your job for you.
is an
Please
issue.
have a look.
Yeah.
Have a look. We've got a challenge here.
You're being unreasonable. We're not going to talk to you.
Absolutely. And the guy's a community hero. I've been sort of arguably, you know, affiliated, you know, whether it's friendship via Facebook and a little bit of political affiliation. We've never been in the same parties or anything, but we've been able to look at each other's platforms and principles and go, oh yeah, cool. I could have a drink with that guy and we could talk about the issues and we could agree on what we agree on and we could probably work out the things we disagree on. Reasonable things to disagree on.
How sensible did his rail proposal sound when he said it connects the city and it goes past the international terminal?
Not that I can think of any reason why anybody would want to be connected to the city. It's a shithole.
No, but it just adding 3 stations and about 10k of track, and all of a sudden you've linked Western Sydney Airport with the city via a reliable rail link. It's just something that someone who wanted to plan something sensible would just go, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's no need for it, you know, like they've been there, they've done that. It's all sort of tailed out. But how many property developers are involved in that?
Well, that's the whole
Who got a handshake? Who got a brown envelope? And don't think that doesn't happen. We're watching at the moment with the CMFEU down in Victoria. I don't think that it's only happening in Victoria. It's happening in every state. It just so happens that their most gangster activity was a blatant gangster activity.
No, but there's another story with the CFMEU that's not being mentioned.
Yeah.
And apparently there's a coal mining company that was sourcing their staff through an employment agency. And in the coal mining award, the Black Coal Mining Award, there's no casuals. You can't employ casuals.
Right.
But the CFMEU and a company that appears to be connected to Glencore,
yeah,
right,
okay,
who made a donation of around $40 million
So a small donation.
to a political party
Yeah.
are all entwined in this wage theft from the members of the union and the company.
Yeah.
So, like, the company and the union appear to have been involved in a situation whereby the workers
Yes.
were being.
And I'll tell you what, it's funny. There's a term that gets thrown around like confetti now, and it's not Hitler or Trump, because somehow people still use the term he's literally Hitler. It's like, clearly you don't know what the word literally means, you retard. But another word that's thrown around really, really common, and I've been called it, and you've probably been called it, whether to your face or not, is fascism. You're a fascist.
Yes.
Peter Dutton's a fascist. No, Peter Dutton's
No,
a
I
dummy.
haven't, but anyway.
Oh, well, yeah, certainly not to your face. All right. Now, if you were to go back to the man who basically invented it, Mussolini, his description of fascism was the marriage of corporate and the state. That was sort of, the one entity, which is exactly what you've got down in Victoria, by the same entities that love throwing around the term fascism. And, it's happening in the Labor Party's really bad for really pronounced with it. The LNP's a little more nuanced with their buddying up with the state. Like, there's no doubt that it's occurring. And people
It's always been out in front and the centre from the LNP because they've been bankrolled by the big business, and they've always represented business interests as part of their mandate.
Yes.
So the Labor Union, the Labor movement, on the other hand, has passed themselves off as representing the worker.
Yeah.
But more often than not, they're actually going into bat for the corporations, and the workers are getting triple pineappled.
It's very romantic when you put it like that, isn't it?
But that's how it's going down. So, it's pretty obvious that the representation's pretty poor at all levels.
Absolutely. And look, and I've been banging on about it forever. Sometimes I sit there and I think, geez, maybe I should just give up fighting back on this stuff. But it does my head in, because the corruption happens at all three levels of government. Red team, blue team, all in on it in various capacities. The LNP is just as capable of pork barrelling and shonky behaviours as the Labor Party and the Greens.
I think the defining word is politician.
Absolutely.
So I think once you're a politician, I think that's just
absolutely, and I guess I've had very good friends over the years as I've been involved in politics who have rang me up, and they mean well. And some of them watch this program later on in the week, and they'll say to me, we could get you elected if you would just bend on this issue, or if you would just bend on that issue, or if you just,
it's what Michael said. They're electing, city councils are elected on party politic lines.
Absolutely.
And he said if they banned the party politic element of it, and they were smart enough to see through it, and they elected people who felt strongly about their communities, they would have a shit ton better community.
For sure. The trick is, how do you get that seed of corruption? Let's be fair. Timor's a national stronghold. Here where we are, it's a national stronghold.
Well, because 99% of the people in Timor are engaged in the agricultural industry, and they feel an affinity with this party that puts themselves forward as representing.
Absolutely. And I used to, the last federal election, I had some great discussions with local people down here at the town hall who agree with every single policy I put forward, but have to vote with the Nationals, even though they're supporting net zero, even though they're arguably okay with the, drag queen story time in certain electorates. They're okay with whatever the hell else is, the woke bullshit nonsense, the welcome to country, all that sort of stuff. And they've changed their tune multiple times since. But the amount of people that said, I agree with every policy you've got, but we can't let Labor in, so we've got to vote for McCormack, your number 2. Now, Michael, I don't have any real issues with Michael. I think on some topics he's pretty good. We actually share a bit of an affinity on veterans issues. On that, he and I kind of align, I think, fairly well. But the fact that the amount of people, one, don't understand the electoral system anyway, haven't got a clue how it works, and somehow thought that if they put me number 1, Michael was going to lose to the Labor Party. Labor was never going to get the numbers to get even close. But anyway, that's fine. But then you're looking at the people who are outright saying, we'll fix it from the inside. We'll fix the Liberal Party from the inside. We'll fix the Labor Party from the inside. We'll fix the Greens from the inside. The Greens used to be about
They
the
end up on
environment.
the inside of a mental institution.
That's where they
They end
belong.
up on the inside of a straight
They have
jacket,
absolutely.
rocking backwards and forwards, knowing that they've just wasted 20 years of their life, because these institutions or these organisations cannot be fixed from the inside.
Absolutely
It's
not.
like joining the mafia and committing 13 murders and fixing it from the inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can't be done.
No.
And look, and I these days I look at the entire political system, and that's where I sit on it. Is I don't think most of it can be fixed. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm very supportive of you going in there at a council level and doing the work you're doing. Obviously, I'm supportive of it. I'd like more local councillors to ring me up and say, "Hey, can we come on the show or whatever and put forward what we stand for and what we're all about?" I think if you're willing to take one ratepayer dollar as a public official, not an employee, that's a slightly different thing. But if I don't expect the guy who's down mowing the lawns to be held accountable for his personal life. But if you're an elected official, I think you should be absolutely, every single councillor should be on a platform whereby the general public can ask questions and go, "Hey, what's the story? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you vote that way?" David Limbrick, every week, I think, fortnight, whatever he does, he's an MLC in Victoria. Every week he releases a little blurb of what he put forward in Parliament, what I did in Parliament, what I did this, and how he voted on key topics. I'd love to see everyone do it.
Well, we spoke about this last week about the senator from WA being sacked from the Labor Party for voting against party lines.
Yes,
I want to know what they stand for.
absolutely.
I don't want to listen to Dutton. I don't want to listen to Albo. I want to listen to that individual. I want to find out how they tick, what they think, and what they're made of, and what they actually stand for. And I want to see them cross the floor, and I want to see them vote with their heart. You know what I mean? And I just want to see a bit of courage. And
I disagree fundamentally with that WA.
Drink up.
Fundamentally, land one quick. But I disagree with most of her policies. But I admire her courage to go, "This is what I believe, and I'm going to tell the Labor Party to stick it up their bums." Lydia Thorpe, I've defended Lydia Thorpe ad nauseum for the last 2 years. Now, people think I'm mad because Lydia's just crazy. Absolutely. But she's one of the few people in Parliament that I've seen at any level who actually believes the bullshit coming out of her mouth. She believes it. She lives it. She's wrong. I think she's mad and should probably be arguably, locked up.
At least.
But she's honest and she believes every single thing that comes out of her mouth. The rest of them, they come out with whatever shit they have to do.
So if you go for a score on authenticity, it'd be 100 out of 100.
She gets 100 out of 100. Yeah. Is she mad as a hatter? Absolutely.
But say Peter Dutton, out of authenticity, 5?
5?
Yeah.
Like
a good day, out of 100.
I like John Ruddock. I think John's pretty legit. I've got a lot of time for John. I've spent time with him. Same as even Latham. But I'd put Ruddock as an authentic. He's up in there 78. He believes passionately about everything he says. I haven't seen him sell himself out since he's been in Parliament. And I can tell you, if I thought he had, I'd ring him up and I'd go, "Are you mad, John?"
Yeah. Back to the your thoughts on the state of government.
Yes, yeah, of course.
I just had to look up because I knew roughly the quote from Winston Churchill.
Oh, yep. This is I'm a fan of Winston.
Well, he says many forms of government have been tried, and will be tried in this world of sin and woe. No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. So it's the best worst option we've got.
Absolutely.
The worst best option.
Absolutely.
And
look, democracy is where 51% of the population get to tell the 49% that they outnumber, that we're better than you and we're right, you're wrong, and we are superior because we have arguably 51% over 49%.
Look, the one thing I'll say is, and look, this is the point. We're not going to change it. Me and you aren't going to change it. So what do? Do we either just turn our backs on it and think of ourselves and do nothing about it.
My Christ, I've thought about doing that
Well,
many times.
That's what I did for most of my life. And it took a pretty solid event where I felt fairly hard, poorly done by,
Yep.
that actually made me kick myself in the ass and go, you know what, I'm not going to take that and I'm going to serve it back up to you.
Yep.
Now, that's pretty sad. And I was silly enough, and I used to just tell myself, I just thought they weren't doing a real good job, but there wasn't too much to it. And, you know, they could do better. And there was a couple of blokes getting a bit of a rub, but
overall, I think most people who get into the space at any level do so with I think most go into it, or traditionally have mostly gone into it with good motivations. They go in there to try and do good work and perform good things, but they end up corrupted pretty quick. And in the current environment, and Michael touched on it, you know, these career politicians who, you know, you come up through the labour unions and get themselves a prime ministership like the current bozo, or you've got the other side of it, which is this young liberal machine that's so broken. And I you know, I've had a lot to do with quite a few people in that machine, and I can arguably say I like them. I can go, look, oh yeah, mate, I like you. We can have a beer, but I also can just see it's only going to be a few years before you're going to be broken.
Oh, completely so.
And you're going to have sold every inch of yourself for that little club.
Like I say, I'm not a politician. If they were to sack me tomorrow, it's like, oh, thank Christ, that's over.
That part of it would be over, but now you're wide awake and ready for a fight.
Yes,
so it's different.
But from my perspective, I was effective outside of council, and I can still be effective outside of council. I've spoken to other people who say, to some extent, you're probably more effective outside of council.
Well, so, that's my hesitation for arguably whether I'm going to run or whether I'm not.
You know, one thing that a wise ex-councillor from Young Hilltops, he said to me, he said, I don't particularly agree with you, but at least you've had the guts to put your money where your mouth is and have a crack.
Yeah, bloody hell.
And
absolutely.
There's a hell of a lot of people who sit on the fence and have their 2 bobs worth, but would not lift a finger, and they're not worth a stamp.
Yep.
So, you know, there's a couple of ways to look at that. Look, but even back onto the local type of stuff, you know, we've got at Cootagundagai, they've had their extraordinary meeting, and they've elected the deputy mayor, who was the deputy mayor under Charlie Sheen, Gil Kelly.
Yep.
He's been promoted to be the mayor of Cootagundagai. Now, his role is to continue this work. Well, he's got to lead the council to the elections.
Yes.
Now, will he be re-elected? He's obviously thought of fairly well in the community. We'll wait and see how it all washes out.
Yep.
He may lead the council after the elections, and then it's on his shoulders now to carry this through.
Yep.
They've done what the minister demanded of them.
Yes.
They've agreed to go to the elections. Charlie fell on his sword and said, I'm not going down that path.
Which I can dig that.
100% we spoke about that.
Sure.
So Gil Kelly is the new mayor. He was the deputy. Now a lady called Penny Nicholson,
right,
has been elected as Gil's deputy.
Oh, congratulations / commiserations,
so congratulations,
Gil and Penny.
Yeah. So they've got it all before them. And I think they've just got to pick up the baton following the election and hopefully progress the whole thing and get through the whole Boundaries Commission process and get the job done, because how many starts can this thing have?
Yeah, it needs to be done sooner rather than
later.
That's
where that's at. Now, our friends at Kiama.
Yes, anything quickly news there while we rip through these last few?
Well, Kiama Council, well, I don't know whether they're trying to be proactive or help the community or whatever, but they built an aged care home with ratepayers' money and significant borrowings.
Fantastic.
Now, it hasn't worked out that good for them.
Not unexpected.
And it's lost money year on year on year on year. And it's become a bit of an albatross. So they've unloaded it and they've found someone willing to take it on.
Yeah, right. A private provider.
A private provider who's from WA.
Right.
That's where most of their work's been done to date, but they were looking due to this is a press release from the Kiama Municipal Council. So they've executed a contract for the sale. of Blue Haven, Boniara, with settlement to occur on the 1st of November. Now, the Hall and Pryor are a leading provider of aged care services across New South Wales and Western Australia. They've settled on a sale price of $95 million. So it's real.
That's significant. Yeah.
Now, that'll be adjusted for some liabilities that
the project has incurred.
that the buyers will assume
Yes.
at settlement. So that includes some employee entitlements and some deposits that have been paid, and all these things that are in the pot but aren't actually their money.
Yep.
So when it's all said and done, sale proceeds after adjustments from 95 million are expected to be 26 million.
Well, that's a significant difference.
It is. So there's a few liabilities.
For those who are a bit weak on math, that's a significant difference. Yes.
Now, the CEO at Kiama came out to say that she confirmed the fact that the sale price had been negatively affected by several factors. I'd say probably mismanagement might have been
Mismanagement,
one of them,
possibly
we can't-
corruption, possibly,
no,
allegedly, maybes.
but they included building defects, including bathroom design concerns, issues with drainage and cladding.
Yeah, right.
So it sounds like they've got a really big
Pretty
aged care home
serious.
that may have some serious issues. So they said that these aren't new concerns. They've been working on them for a while. They've been very upfront about them. So we've built you a brand new aged care home that's defective, and it's cost you all a shit ton.
Oh, there's nothing better than
So they've been upfront, which is good.
We've been really honest about our incompetence for a change.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So anyway, look, so that they're on a performance improvement order from the minister to get their financial matters in order. Now, there's some concerns over Kiama Way that the way that they intend to get their financial matters in order is to sell the farm.
Yeah.
Sell everything that they've got. Whatever's not nailed down, they're having a fire sale.
Yes, right.
If you've got to spend 95 million.
Kiama's a nice spot, you know.
You've got to buy half a town.
We had a cafe in Gerringong for a while. It was a pretty nice
You
spot.
can duck over to Kiama and get a bargain.
Get a
because,
bargain, buy up half
The
the city.
council's in a bit of a pickle and they're looking to unload some assets. The concern for some of the people over there is that they're not addressing the expenditure side.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to do something in that space, because once you've sold everything and you haven't curbed your spending, what do you do then?
Yes. Eventually you run out of other people's money.
Yes.
And it's a very, very simple economic philosophy that's adopted by most libertarians.
Is it what you do? Is it what Dan Andrews did? You just ring the Chinese and say,
for
sale, one coastal getaway.
Well,
You know,
buy our state.
yeah, we'll buy our town.
Yeah, well,
So-
yeah, it's our,
So that's where that's at. So
righto.
anyway, so that's the update from Kiama. We've got the update from
Cooter.
Cooter. They're going,
Righto, the last one would have to always last one, second last one.
last one.
Last one. Well, you had a Tomorrowshire Council meeting tonight. Is there anything
We
anything
did.
glamorous coming
How
out
do
of
I
it?
look? Do I look okay?
What? Tell you what, yeah,
Not
I don't know,
stressed.
black eyes.
No,
you
not
know,
stressed
you're
out.
coping. You're all right.
I'm
Do we
all
need a
right.
therapist?
No, I haven't had the scotch or anything yet.
No, well, you know.
How'd
How'd you go? What went on?
I was happy enough. It was the last real meeting, because the next meeting we have will be in August. And at that point in time, we're 4 weeks out from the election and the council will be in caretaker mode.
Yes.
So the council officers are precluded from making any decisions regarding controversial DAs, any big decisions regarding expenditure. So the whole joint just goes into basically a shutdown,
Caretaker mode. Yep.
caretaker mode, until the new council's elected.
So, all right. The paper last week, 3 councillors are resigning, running, retiring, whatever you want to call it. And I made it clear, look, those 3 councillors, I don't have any personal issues with them. I've never had a negative run-in with any one of them. It doesn't mean that I'm thrilled with any outcome one way or the other, but that does leave 3 gaps on Tomorrowshire Council.
Well,
At least
2, because you'll fill one, won't you?
Look, I tell you what, I reckon there's a few people that have nightmares if I decided to run. We'll see.
Oh, well.
We'll see what happens. I'm not beyond issuing the odd nightmare for a few people. Like I'm, not.
Well, there's a little bit of
sensitive
interest in the community, and I really do hope that some free-thinking individuals,
Yeah.
do consider it, because we've got a lot of stuff on the go that is exciting and important. And I think I get frustrated when I think council makes a silly decision.
Yes.
Now,
as does the public who, feels that way on
and
occasion.
you make your own mind up in regards to this.
Sure.
But tonight, for example, and we had a little bit of follow up in the now.
How many times are you and I in the paper this week?
None.
What?
None.
How do they hope to sell any papers if you and I aren't on the front cover?
I don't know. They've moved on to Donald.
I mean, $2.50 a throw. You'd want to have something interesting in there.
Now there was something I read the other day. I don't think it doesn't seem to be in there. They were talking about council have committed in the next year's budget some funds for a electric vehicle charging station to be installed in Victoria Street.
Oh, goody.
So council are they've got some grant money and they're going to spend some of their own money, and we're going to put in. It's been resolved to put this charger in.
I mean, I like Elon Musk, but I think Tesla's a shit.
Well, but there is an opportunity for council to get some revenue out of this, because it's a service where you pay to fuel up. Fill your tank full of electrons. Now, the decision that council made tonight was quite frustrating, in that there's another location in the CBD that they've basically handed to a company that want to put a pole-mounted charger.
Right.
Now, the company that want to put the pole-mounted charger, they want to use Essential Energy's pole.
Right.
They want to use Temora Shire Council's car parks.
Yep.
Or Temora's car parks, the residents' car parks.
Yeah, our car parks. We own them. They're ours.
And they'll provide the charger. And, of course, they'll provide the app that people can pay them for the use of this facility. Now, I monitored the usage of the existing charge station since Tuesday last week.
Where's the existing charge station?
It's in a car park behind the council chambers.
Right.
It's in a very hard to find spot. It's a very ordinary location. But
if you're driving a Tesla, you probably should be hidden away somewhere. That's
when I was out and about, going about my business, I would just swing past and just cast my eye over the usage.
Yep.
That's all the information I could get, because none of this information was provided in the report as to the usage figures. So I had to go and find it out.
You got to count by manual. Yeah.
I had to find it out myself.
Of course.
So after driving past this place, most times I was out and about downtown, I saw one car using it.
Of course.
In 9 days.
There are no bloody people.
In 9 days. But at the same time, on a work day, I would go down and I would look at the 2 car parking spaces that council have allocated for this pole charger.
And they're full.
And they were full.
Yeah.
Occasionally there'd be one available. So we've got these car parks that are in high use by the residents and the business community.
Yeah, and people functioning in the area.
Yeah, because there's timed parking in the main street. But so for business owners who want to be there all day, or for staff of businesses who have to work, they have to park their car somewhere. They can't park it in a timed parking space, so they find somewhere convenient close to the main street to park their car for the day.
Yeah.
So these parks are in high demand. Now, I managed to convince a couple of councils to support my proposition that maybe it's not the smartest thing to allow another provider to put a charger in and compete directly with you.
You say a couple of councillors agreed with you on something?
They did.
Well, that's impressive.
Yeah, no,
that's impressive.
It's actually on the recording.
I must admit, the last few months have had me sort of thinking you could cure cancer, and they'd vote against it just on principle.
No, but when you actually hit them with a bunch,
you can hit them with plenty of stuff. I figured if you hit them with
a bunch of common sense. Well, I thought I had a pretty common sense argument. Anyway, it was rejected. So, unfortunately, council are going to give access to these 2 really important car parking spaces to this company who are going to put a pole charger on Essential Energy's infrastructure and take up 2 car parks. And I think there's going to be a high level of frustration in the community when you're driving around looking for a park and there's 2 car parks empty there for electric vehicles.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it'll be illegal to park a normal car there because
of course it will be.
Of course,
So there's going to be Yeah, and look, every now and again they'll get used, and every now and again people will say, "See, look what we've done for
very
you."
good. Yeah. And somebody or whoever's a big advocate of it will run down and take a photo of it,
Yeah,
prove
look,
that there was a car there.
the other day. I took a photo
So
to prove it.
yeah.
But in the meantime, we're going to go and then commit ratepayers' funds to the installation of one that we hope to drive business to. Yet we've just allowed a competitor.
Could we? Here's a really good idea. Let's demolish the council chambers building. Just bulldoze it and put a 3-story car park that people can pay to use. It'll be fund itself. What do we replace the council with? Nothing. We're not going to replace it with anything. That's just gone. We just get rid of that. That'll be great. And we put a car park there that pays for itself. All right, there. Problem done.
Good luck.
Problem solved.
Good luck.
That'll be.
I can't get something as sensible as that organised. So.
And here I'll absolutely. I'll drive the bulldozer myself. I'll be happy to put on a little hard hat. And
that was a disappointment. The rest of it was business as usual.
Yeah.
But that was probably the one where, and I'd actually, because there was no empirical data in the report.
Yes.
I actually went out of my way to go and collect it. Now I was disappointed. It wasn't at the meeting tonight, but at a previous meeting where this matter was discussed, one of the other councillors put forward the proposition that 30% of vehicles sold in Australia today are electric vehicles.
Have a look at the Hertz in America. They've just shelved 20,000 of the bloody things. They can't give them away.
Looked at the Australian statistics from VFAX, and I reckon they're probably a little bit closer, and it's sub 10%. It's about 9.5%.
Of course, it's sub 10%, and it's not going to be anywhere near what.
And the subsidies have been removed, so you wouldn't imagine that it's going to spike up. It might actually go down.
And that's why we're talking about cars. Let's remember, we're still paying a luxury car tax to protect an industry that's been dead for nearly 20 years. No. The luxury car tax does a lot of good for the budget bottom line. Well, so does the cigarette tax. Fucking parasites.
So we've got that situation. So we have to correct that misnomer there. So it's less than 10%. Now, you would have to think that I would love to see a regional purchase of electric vehicles figure. Because they're saying it's sub 10% Australia-wide. Now, we know that 87% of Australia's population live within 50k of the coast. So I wonder how many electric vehicles.
I reckon.
Other 13%.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just out of control. Yeah,
5 vehicles? Not percent, 5 vehicles, full stop.
Yeah, that's right.
Who knows? So we appear to be catering for something that hasn't arrived yet.
It's arrived in Chris Bowen's bloody boneheaded imagination, and he's a deluded lunatic.
One thing that's really has to be taken on board is the massive, rapid progress that the Chinese automotive manufacturing industry is making in this space.
Absolutely, coming 100 mile an hour.
Yeah. Now, in the last 12 months, I saw a report where they've managed to halve the cost of the batteries that go in EVs.
Yep.
And they're at the point now, the Chinese manufacturers are at the point now where they can produce a motor vehicle, an electric vehicle, cheaper than an internal combustion engine.
Yes.
So,
because if you work those little African kids hard enough, mining that cobalt, if you get enough of them digging fast enough, you can do it cheaper.
Well, when has the providence of any resource ever interfered with the marketing and subsequent uptake of that
correct
product?
Absolutely.
So why should this be any different?
No, that's right.
That's something that we're not going to fix.
No, not this week.
So pretty much China are buckling all of the European car makers.
Absolutely.
The Americans, they're just going, and look, the Americans and the Europeans thought they had them by the short and curlies, proverbially, with the chips.
Yes.
That were required. And there's a huge amount of these chips in these vehicles, of course. But the Chinese have managed to figure out a way to produce these as well, and they're throwing the bank at it.
Look, the Chinese mastered the art of copyright, i.e. it's the right for them to copy whatever the hell you've come up with.
Copy it.
They'll copy it, and they'll copy it better, and they'll copy it cheaper, and they don't care, and they're really, really good at it.
Yeah, and if not, they'll just send all their kids to your country
to
learn how to do it, and then they'll bring them home.
They certainly aren't stupid. No, not stupid.
They play a very long game. And look, anyway, it looks as though that, look, I'm not that naive to think that electric vehicles aren't going to be a big part of the landscape in the future.
Sure.
But I just think from this particular issue at the moment, I think we're giving up car parks that are utilised a lot by the local people, and I think there's going to be a little bit of resentment. Now, if there's not, call me wrong, bonehead, whatever. But if there's complaints, don't bring them to me, please. Take them to someone else, and I'll give you the names of people.
Whoever voted yes for it. That's why I think every councillor should have a Facebook page that says this is what I voted for at the most recent meeting.
So that was one that I voted against. So that I thought, good. Here we are putting direct opposition into the one that we are going to pay with ratepayers money for, and we're giving them prime posse, and we're not getting a cent out of it.
That's sort of the thing, is at least if you've got good people in there kind of going, I'm voting against this, there is at least a voice.
Well, one argument that was put forward was that this individual has heard that people are avoiding travelling to Temora because they've got anxiety because the one and only charger might be out of order or be used by someone else, and they would have to wait.
Well, that's what happens if you buy an EV in 2024. Sometimes you've got to wait, and tough titties. I mean,
can you think, even when the infrastructure isn't going to be there for a fair while, like when we have warbirds down under out at the aviation, there's going to be. Last time they had warbirds down under, there were 12,500 people in Temora on the Saturday.
And here's the other thing that's going to happen.
How many EV charges is it going to take to satisfy that?
The other thing that's going to happen is if they ever get this new servo off the ground, they're going to install a heap of EV chargers. Of course they are. That's what a lot of the servos are doing now anyway.
You'd think the motel operators will put charging facilities.
Absolutely. Let the private business, if they want to do it, let them cater for it. The new servo, the old servos, if they want to put in an EV station or two, council's only role. Council's only role in this is to go, sure. Fucking if the whoever, the Shell decides they want to do it, they put in a request, which I even oppose the fact they've got to ask permission. But council's job is to go, sure, site, go nuts. Thanks very much.
Yeah, these are the rules. You can't put an electric vehicle charging thing with highly explosive lithium-ion batteries next to your fuel pumps.
Whatever, but that's what's already going on. Yeah. And council has no business setting any of this stuff
but
up.
When you see one of these cars light up, and the fact that they can't really put the fire
put them out.
You really want the service stations to have charging facilities there?
Look, they're already doing it. They're doing it along the highways. It's already happening.
Sounds like
it's already happening.
Sounds like a bomb.
Well, so do most of these things sound like bombs. Look, I'm all for loading up nuclear. I'm all for, if you're going to do it, let private companies take care of it. If motels want to add these things, I just don't care.
The Chinese manufacturers have managed to reduce the price of solar wafers that are used in the production of solar panels.
Sure.
By 4 times.
Yeah.
In the last 12 months. So it's 25% of the price it was for these integral solar components than it was 12 months ago.
Yeah.
That means that producing power from that product is going to be so cheap.
Sure.
That
I like solar panels. I've got them on my roof. I don't oppose them.
Yeah, so
I oppose any subsidies for them.
The cost of this nuclear thing, I think it's just gas.
But again,
be better off.
But just take the rules off and go, right, there's not a nuclear ban, and then if some company comes in and goes, right, we're going to build a nuclear reactor. It's our money. We'll do what we want with it. No subsidies for them. I don't believe in the government building them.
I think subsidies create inefficiencies, and they create
inflated markets.
And distortion. They distort the market.
And I don't want these parasites in Parliament picking winners. I want the best, cheapest, most reliable energy on the planet. I'll be fairly frank. I couldn't give a flying rat's ass about net zero. I think it's the biggest load of bullshit next to COVID on planet Earth.
That's your opinion. And there's a lot of people who disagree with it.
Absolutely, sure. No problem. And there's plenty of people who go, I wish I was brave enough to say that out loud.
But if they're in the 51%, you've got to suck it up.
But I oppose that part of it too.
Yeah, but
I've already said. I mean, I agree with Winston's statement.
We did admit that we probably
we already have to swallow it. That's right.
Yeah, so in the real world, you're going to have to put up with
it. The real world is quite simply where, from my perspective at this stage, it's not up to Dutton to build them. It's not up to him to fund them. It's up to him to just take the handbrakes off all these bullshit rules. And as soon as a company comes in and says, Origin Energy, whoever, pull a name out of a hat and they go, we're willing to invest 900 billion into a nuclear reactor to fund, Power Sydney, because that'll give us an absolute monopoly. Will blow everyone into the weeds. Fair enough.
They're going to have to
Such
buy
as
half
life.
the state to site the thing because no one will want to live next to it. You do realise.
You can put one tomorrow West Park. I'll have it right next
What
to
about
me.
the other neighbours?
Well, look, they might get a vote. I don't know.
I
I don't know.
They might.
No, I reckon I can convince them it's a good
I
idea.
reckon the NIMBYism would be
free.
not in my
power.
backyard. When you spoke nuclear, not in my backyard would go.
No, I'll absolutely put my money where my mouth is. Put one next to my house. I'm not the
They'll probably
slightest
say,
bit
you can move out to Woomera and we'll put one there and you can live on top of it if you like.
Tell you what, no, that's open for discussion too. Don't worry about it. There's some value in that.
So that's where that's at. Anyway, I was really disappointed with that. I thought it was short-sighted. I just think they're knee-jerking to a bunch of wankers that want to come and visit tomorrow, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. As opposed to actually catering for the people who live here day to day, every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And who probably have got minimum wage jobs and can't happen to afford an EV at the moment.
Well, you'll save money on fuel if you go and spend,
Oh, yeah, 80 grand on an
80
EV.
grand on an EV.
Yeah,
You'll save 20 cents a litre.
When you've got a $2,000 Camel.
Absolutely. Like, what's wrong with you? Don't you know anything?
Yeah, and you're on minimum wage.
Yeah, well, that's okay. You've just got to manage your money better. What's wrong with you?
You do.
You've got to improve.
Invest.
You have to improve in your pork barreling techniques.
Yeah.
Councillor, look, this is the longest program we've done so far, but we did have a great guest, fantastic guest. Michael was
me
very
nerve.
cool.
You touched the nerve about council going into business.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
do it.
Next week.
Okay, let's do it.
Next week, that can be our topic because there's been something that I found rather concerning, and council have gone into business.
Council are in business.
Council have gone into business in an area that's already occupied by a number of businesses within Temora. I find it very concerning, and I've got great reservations about the whole process.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you've come up with in that space. As everybody knows, I'm pretty hardcore in my views of what council should be doing. I can justify rates if you're focusing on collecting my rubbish. I think that's a job. Arguably, I'd be happy enough for rubbish to be privatised as well. But okay, I'll tolerate that. Make sure the potholes are filled. Reducing rates wherever possible, and I'm almost sold on mowing some park lawns.
Keep the sewage system.
Yeah. But that's really base level stuff. I don't want you doing anything else. Nothing.
No, and that's where
less and less.
That's where Kiama ran into trouble.
Let's
they went out
nursing
of their
home. We don't know anything about nursing homes. We don't know anything about building properties. We don't know anything about it, but it's not our money, so we'll give it a bash. These people, just stick to what you're designed to do.
A strong argument to that. I think a lot of the conflict and a lot of the issues that local government faces, a lot of their over expenditure will come from entering into areas they're probably not that.
Absolutely. And even if you've got one councillor who for one term is very, very well versed in a particular business area, if they don't get elected in 4 years' time, all of a sudden that expertise in that space, off a cliff, see, what happened?
No. But councils have been populated by people who've got expertise in one business area, and it's generally their own business.
Yes. That should be depopulated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's wrap it up, guys, ladies and gentlemen, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We've had an all-star cast of folks tuning in this evening, as we tend to do. I know there's an awful lot of people who keep an eye on what we're up to.
Well,
I'm not sure what the views are up to overall for the evening. They've fluctuated, which is always the case, because what we've discovered is people tend to watch a little bit, then they'll go and, I don't know, cook dinner or whatever they're going to do, and then they'll come back a bit later.
Well, that's the best thing. You don't have to.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this. Unlike the radio station where we pretty much had to tune in live to catch what we were on about. Yeah, you can just do it at your own leisure, which is fantastic as well. Don't be too slow, though, because the world's breaking down at a rapid pace, and we need some help here. We are having some stuff go on about local council candidates. Anybody who's interested, please reach out. There will be no bullying. There will be no hammering. Nobody's going to give you a hard time. Well, they might try and give you a hard time, but I will absolutely stand next to anyone, even if I disagree with you, who has the courage to stand up. Councillor Irvine, I'm pretty confident will be of the same volition in that area. Please, if you do like the programming, share it with your friends, even if you do it quietly in their DMs because you're afraid to do it publicly in case you get howled down by some maniacs, power-hungry little control.
Watch it on your missus's phone.
Yeah, get her in trouble. get her in trouble, whatever, whoever does it. But the point being, if you do like what we're up to, either subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out Councillor Irvine's Facebook page or mine, whichever. It doesn't, like whatever you're into is all cool with us. But like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. It does matter. I mean, neither of us are making any money out of this.
No,
We're just doing it
quite
because,
the opposite.
well, you've cost yourself a small fortune. But I mean, look, from the reality of this for us is
It's money well spent. You cannot. You've got to pay for your education.
well,
If it's a HEX debt or if it's just in lost income.
lost income because you're having a crack. But it at least gives the other side of the story. We know that the two local media outlets are fairly coloured in certain directions.
It's interesting to hear Michael talk about the way that the mayor has a media arm and he
Media
manages to sort of just drive that message out to
2024
using council to
Fun.
drive that message out.
Oh, well, look, we're going to drive our own little message and we're going to do it amongst the people, and those who love us, and those who hate us, hate us. To those who really hate me, I love it. Yeah, tally ho, game on, baby. Everyone tune in again next week, Thursday, between 7:30 and 9:30.
Talking council business in business.
Talking council business in business. We'll touch on a few other topics, but everyone, thank you for tuning in. Have a great night, and we'll see you next Thursday.